Well guys, fall is here. The days are getting shorter, which means it's dark more, and inclement weather has hit. So you get the snow, you get the rain, you get the debris on the ground. This is a perfect time to talk about safety, and I think the most obvious first place to start is visibility. We have a high visibility water resistant jacket here. Even has some reflective accents on it. We've got a bike frame that is white, because that's going to be the most visible. It even has reflective sidewall stripes on those tires, but you might be thinking, well, my bike's not white. What do I do? There are reflective stickers that are sold aftermarket, and I would recommend checking those out on Amazon. One company that's really stepped it up in recent years is Rad Power Bikes. They sell reflective stickers. Some of the accents on their frames are reflective, and they even have this reflectivity paint. The paint includes real light crystal glass pigments designed to increase visibility for the human eye, LiDAR, so that's light detection and ranging, and computer vision. And this is relevant because of self-driving cars. So all those types of optics could see this paint. And very cool. So they have a green and a blue model that look kind of casual and stylish, but they're still going to give you that extra visible footprint. I think that's wonderful to see companies intentionally making their frames reflective. You can see I've even got white frame glasses just to keep my face visible and to help people recognize that this is a human flying past them. These have clear lenses right now, but I can swap them out for sunglass lenses. This was called the Jawbone. These glasses are like 10 plus years old. I think Oakley renamed them, but they're very cool, and there are similar products out there. It's another way to sort of have some fun, but also be visible. Of course, lights are also a big consideration in this department, and this Easy Forza has a rear light and a headlight. Now, I love when lights are integrated, meaning they run off that main battery pack, because they're a lot less likely to get stolen at the bike rack or run out of charge, or just have like those disposable batteries where it kind of, you might get to work or school and you're kind of distracted and you forget to turn it off, and then you come back at night when you need it and the battery's dead. So the integrated lights are great because they run off that main battery pack. Positioning also matters, and in this case I think there's a little bit of room for improvement. This headlight is mounted on the arch of the suspension fork. This is unsprung, meaning it's going to go like this as you navigate across different terrain, and that light beam is going to bounce around, and this could even start to get loose and point in the wrong direction. It can also get blocked by the fender or interact with like a basket. Things like that could start to block it. The rear light, similar situation here. On the one hand, it's protected by the tubing on that rack. However, if you have a trunk bag or panniers, they can hang past it or over it. So keep that in mind. It's nice that you want it to be durable. Sometimes I see them low down here on the fender, but you also want it to actually be visible. And the lower it is, that's not great. You want these lights as high as possible, but you just don't want them to interact or get blocked. Sometimes I see those seat post mounted lights where it just kind of rubber bands on, or maybe it bolts on. And then if you're wearing a jacket, the jacket can hang down behind you like this and block that light from being visible. This is one of the reasons I really like helmets like this one. Abus gave me this years ago just kind of for free, and I like it. But I don't want to fully endorse them. There are a lot of good companies out there that make helmets that are safe, that have reflective accents. This one's black, but it still has reflectors, and it even has a light built into the top. So way up high, this light isn't rechargeable, but some of the newer helmets are, which is just wonderful. You can also have, of course, the reflective jacket. Maybe you put a light on the back of your backpack, something like that. Could really make a difference in helping cars see you. Now, ideally, for the headlight, it would be mounted up here, right at the stem on the handlebar. It's still going to point where you steer, like this lower light, but it's just not going to be so low. It's not going to bounce around. I also see lights mounted here at the bottom of the steer tube, but then it can get blocked by baskets and wires and stuff. One of the trade-offs about baskets, while we're on this topic, is you'll see these aftermarket ones that kind of hang on the handlebar. Maybe they mount to the lowers of the fork. The problem is then they sort of slosh around as you steer, and that impacts your steering. So as far as cargo goes, it's really nice when you have a frame-mounted rack like that rear rack and a frame-mounted front rack. If you're going to do that, that would bolt to that steer tube again. Now, it's not going to feel as natural. Like if I'm up here steering and I have a basket, the basket that mounts to the handlebars, it's going to kind of go with me. But again, that creates some momentum. It impacts your steering, whereas the frame-mounted basket's going to stay straight, and that can create a little bit of just kind of an optical illusion. You're like, I'm turning, but I don't see the bike turning. I like that in this case, the headlight even seems to have sort of a light sensor, so it might come on automatically. And this comes back to the display too. There's usually a dedicated light button, but many times you'll have to hold the plus button, and that can be easy to miss if you're sharing the bike, you're buying it used, and you don't really know the proper instructions. So I like when there's a dedicated light button. I also appreciate when I turn the lights on how the display sometimes dims a little bit, so I'm not ruining my night vision. But you know, with a really bright light right here and everything else, you know, it's kind of distracting. Sometimes there are settings menus. You hold plus and minus on a lot of bikes. You can go in and you can decrease the brightness and set it up. It's just like getting into an automobile where you check the rear view mirror and you check the side mirrors before you start riding, just to make sure you're optimized, you're not distracted. Other things I love about this particular bike is that we have fenders. We got a little rubber piece at the bottom, so that's going to be more flexible if you go over a log or up a curb or something. It's not going to crack as easily. Rear fender as well. And then we even have a chain guard, which is going to keep your pants from getting dirty or snagged, and it just kind of keeps everything clean. In my opinion, the company making the best fenders for bikes and e-bikes right now is Specialized. They have these flex tenders and dry tech designs on their Como, Vado, Taro, and Globe Haul models that they're just extra long. They've got a flexible portion at the bottom so they won't crack, but they get that, keep your shins and your shoes a lot drier. And they even route water out and to the sides instead of straight out, which blows up in your face. I mean, they're really, really good. Definitely worth considering. They also do a great job on their headlights and reflectivity. Again, riding around where here in Colorado it snows, it rains, and having a bike that's going to be able to handle any of those conditions is good. Of course, when it snows and rains, if you get your tires even a little bit damp and then you take a kind of a tight turn, that front tire can slide out. And this has happened to me. I actually have a scar on my chin from where I fell down and hit my face on the ground when I lived in Austin. I was cutting across some grass. I took a corner kind of tight, got my tires wet, and then took a corner hard on the concrete, and I slid right out. So keep that in mind. And of course, what we're seeing here, again, this debris. So whether it's gravel from them salting the road or plowing, and then leaves, if you take a corner, you can slide out on this. So just take your time, please. I hate to see people falling down, getting hurt. My mom has crashed her bike a number of times for this exact reason. And electric bikes, they weigh more. Sometimes the weight isn't ideally placed. This is low and center where you want it, but sometimes, you know, the bike is a little heavier and you're going a little bit faster because of that pedal assist or the throttle in this case, and it's just a lot easier to kind of get out of control and slide when the conditions change like this. So please do be careful. Now, another feature this bike is doing well is they have a suspension fork. Okay, now you might be thinking like, okay, well, that's just for comfort. You know, if I hit a curb or a log or something, it's going to save my wrists and my arms. And in this case, you know, they even have an adjustable angle stem, so they're trying to give you that optimal body position. It seems like, oh, this must be all about comfort. But actually, one of the big benefits of any type of suspension is that it keeps that wheel and that tire touching the ground, which gives you more control as you ride. This is something Reese and Mueller have long communicated around their products. They have just a bunch of electric bikes that offer full suspension, and that gives you the best traction, the best performance, and the best control and safety in that sense. They have several urban models that offer full suspension, including the Delight, the Homage, the Culture, the Load, and the Mountain. Most urban electric bikes I see only have front suspension like this, and a lot of times I'm recommending a seat post suspension, and again, that's more for comfort. But having suspension that actually keep those wheels on the ground and keeps the bike steady, it's actually going to help you ride more safely. And I think that's something people overlook, and especially if you're considering the price differential. Reese and Mueller in particular are very expensive products, but they operate more like cars, and that improves your safety. We should also mention Bosch and Stromer, which in recent years have introduced anti-lock braking systems for electric bikes, predominantly on the front wheel. Like, that's the tire that can easily lock up and slide out or slide on leaves or gravel or wet terrain. So having anti-lock brakes there means you can stop super quickly, decreasing the chance that you'll lock the brake up and slide out because you're panicking or overreacting. So those are pretty cool. Connected to suspension are the wheels and the tires. And in this case, we've got Schwalbe Marathon Plus. And these are great. I mean, they have puncture protection built in, Performance Line, Smart Guard, different levels of puncture resistance. Usually it's sort of a slow drain, but it could be fairly rapid. If you're going quickly and you've got the bike loaded up, that could lead to kind of an accident. So I do think that high quality tires make a big difference. And of course, the tread is also relevant. Here we sort of have a hybrid tread. It's mainly slick, and that's going to be perfect for going across sidewalks and streets. And there are a few little grooves here to help displace water. If you're going off-road, you want something that's a little bit chunkier. You've got deeper tread, and then the wider and deeper you go, that's for more and more aggressive off-roading. There are laws and regulations that require new bicycles and electric bikes to come with reflectors, which is a great thing if you don't have lights especially. You can see in this case we got basic plastic pedals that have some reflectors built in, but I want to call out a company called Redshift Sports. They have the Arc Light pedal, and they have a clip-in and clipless version. They're very cool. They have lights that actually point white in the front and red in the back. Even if you spin them, it kind of knows what direction it's pointing, and that gives you another sort of movement, high visibility, and it even kind of shines on the ground. I think that is so cool. I've reviewed those a couple of times in the past, and it's another way to upgrade a bike that might not have all of the safety features we're talking about here. And perhaps the final, most overlooked safety feature about a bicycle is getting the right size, getting something that's approachable, that you can stand over, that you can handle, something that's not too heavy if you're someone who's a little bit weaker, and then getting it fit appropriately. So I'm here in Fort Collins, Colorado, over by City Park, and Precision e-bikes, they loaned me this model to go and just talk about. This would be great for someone who does want a more approachable frame, who might want that upright body position. And a lot of people, I think it's easy to overlook that, like, look, there's a little riser here, spacer that raises the stem, then it's upright, swept back handlebars, the ergonomic grips. This is a great bike for like riding around the city for someone who wants to be casual, and that more upright body position in the appropriate fit is going to allow you to not be like hunched over and struggling and distracted. So it's kind of about your skill level and your body type and all of that. Going to a dealer is a great way to get the right product. You may have all the safety features in the world and have the bike that's perfect, but maintenance also matters, having a bike that runs properly. So I'm here with Josh from Precision e-bikes in Fort Collins. How often should people come, and what are the wear points that you work on most for safety?
So we recommend with all electric bikes that you get your bike serviced at least once a year. The main challenge we have is that because the bike is heavier and has extra energy, we're going through our brake pads faster. So if you ever see the brake lever touch to the handlebar, you need to bring that in for service right away.
Yeah.
But one of the most important things is getting your tire pressure proper. I recommend once a month to check it and make sure that it's really at the recommendation. This particular one's about 45 pounds. Some of the larger tires run a little bit lower pressure, but the narrower it is, the higher the pressure. And when you have that correct tire pressure, you get your absolute best efficiency, but you're also safer because you're not going to get a pinch of flat. You're not going to roll the tire over. And so you want really good tires, you want really good pressure, you want really good brake pads, and it's always good to make sure that your handlebars are tight, your seat is tight, your pedals are tight, just to make sure that everything is on there solid.
You made a great point. Some of these have quick release, and so just kind of, making sure that that's pointed up and not down and forward so it doesn't get snagged, making sure that it's tight, especially if you transported the bike.
The key to quick releases is that you can tighten it, and you want it to start having pressure halfway and then fold it all the way up. That's perfect.
Got it. Yeah, because over-tightening is also bad, and then the wheel doesn't roll smoothly and the bearings. Josh, you were mentioning the tire pressure, and a lot of times on the sidewall of the tires, see here it says inflate to 35 to 65 PSI. So that range is really cool. If you're a lighter rider and the tire feels really hard, it's going to be efficient, but it's not going to have that absorption. It's not going to track to the terrain as well. So I'm glad you pointed that out. And I noticed a lot of your bikes seem to have the hydraulic disc brakes because it's a more powerful, faster thing like this cargo bike. Some of the more affordable ones go with mechanical. Do they still work okay, even, it's just about the brake pads?
Absolutely, that's right. The hydraulic gives you a mechanical advantage where it's easier on your fingers for just 2 pulls, but the cable activated brakes are just as effective in that there's no give, there's no loss, and so they work very well. Yet with that said, you need to have them adjusted properly. So a consumer can actually make a little adjustment and make sure that that's tight just by taking up some of the slack there.
Yeah.
When you get a brand new bike, the cables stretch out, and then your brake levers are coming really close to your bar.
Just like you said. Yeah. You can pinch your fingers between the lever and the grip. It's happened to me a couple times.
Yeah, it is a challenge for sure. So you just want to make sure that you've got adequate tire pressure, brake pressure on your levers there.
Yeah, mechanical brakes are a little bit easier to adjust yourself just with like an Allen key, and you can pull the wire. But as he's saying, over time that cable can kind of bed into the housing, and you're just not getting it needs to be tightened up. And these are barrel adjusters right here. The same thing for your shifter cable right here. You can twist one way or another because of over time it's sort of bedding in. Those are
exactly
excellent points. And it's interesting to see. I was talking about the white frame. You have a bunch of black frames, but I love how all of them, and here's the blue one, they all have that reflective tire setup, which is wonderful.
Yeah, Schwalbe makes professional grade equipment, and that reflective strip, I think it might be the law in Europe. I mean, they just make sure that you can be seen. We have reflectors on the pedals and on the wheels, and we try to but they like them on the tires, and I think that works really well. I think that's really smart to have.
European law, I think it also makes the light kind of cuts off at the top so it doesn't shine up into anyone's face, and they have a certain brightness rating, and then they have certain tire ratings. Like some of these I was noticing earlier, it said 25 kph or whatever, so it was e-bike rated. Yeah. Here you can see some aftermarket lights. There's even some wheel lights, which is fun, these ones that go on your spokes. And then of course my favorite, bells. You may not think it's a safety feature, but if it's dry out and your throat is kind of seized up, or you just can't respond as quickly, I guess I find that bells are very friendly, and they're another way to signal to people that you're coming. Okay, so you had another suggestion, Josh.
So for me, what I find is the most useful accessory for any bike, whether it's electric bike, road bike, mountain bike, whatever, you got to get yourself a good mirror. These miracle mirrors are great. You can set them and adjust them to be exactly where you want it to be, but this enables the rider to be able to see the traffic that's coming up behind them. We recommend you have it on the left side, and then you can really know when it's the right time to be able to pull out into traffic.
I've also seen the little ones that kind of come off the helmet, and you got a little. What do you think about those ones?
Once you get used to it, it can work really well, because then you just have this one little spot where you're looking behind, and you can see, I see some older riders on road bikes that really know when I'm coming up behind them, and they're not turning their head. The main thing is they're not looking back to figure out who's behind them. They got their eyes on the road, but they just take a quick glance and they know, here comes an e-biker to pass me, and they move over just a little bit, and we zip by them.
Gloves also make a big difference. You can imagine when it gets cold out, the air rushing over your hands. This is just going to keep you flexible and able to respond quickly versus having those cold, kind of weak feeling. And these ones, they're light colored, so they stand out a bit more, and they've got that special, some sort of a sensor when you do touch screens, whether it's on your phone or some other smart electronics, they're able to operate. You don't have to take your gloves off, so I'm really a big fan of those. They also add some padding, so whether you have suspension or not, you're going to be a little bit more comfortable going over some of those bumps.
Yeah,
and then fit. That's another big feature. I guess a big consideration is getting the right sized bike and then getting it adjusted to fit them. I mean, how important do you think that is?
It's a world of difference, okay? In my opinion, the most important thing you can do is get the right size bike for your body type.
Yeah.
You got to start there. And then once you have the right size bike, then you want to get the saddle adjusted right. At first, when you first get on the bike, you might want it a little bit lower to be able to get your feet on the ground. But once you start getting some miles in and you're starting to do hundreds of miles, you want to have that saddle up so you just have a slight bend in your leg.
Yeah.
You don't want it fully extended, or else you'll experience pain in your knee.
Yeah.
But if you have a slight bend, it's absolutely perfect. And then many people are going with more of an upright handlebar that gives you a little riser to be able to give you more of an upright position.
Yeah.
It can make all the difference in the world, because the more comfortable it is, the more you're going to use your bike.
Yeah.
Riding a bicycle should never hurt. Get yourself a good saddle that fits your body type right. Men's saddles for men's hips, it really, really matters. The ladies that come in and they get a women's saddle, it just helps them to be able to ride further, go for more miles with less pain.
Yeah.
So it really matters to be able to fit the bike to your body type.
Well, sometimes people are wearing like the bike shorts that have the padding in them too.
Yeah.
That can help. And I've seen the dropper post. That's another alternative. You were mentioning having a low saddle, but then wanting that more full leg extension. A dropper post can let you do that. It's a fancier feature, or the suspension post that kind of lines. There's a world of possibilities here. So if you are in that situation, going to a shop like Josh is here at Precision E-Bikes, getting some help, an expert tune really goes a long way. None of the things I've mentioned today, between Rad with their Real Light thing, or Reese and Mueller, or the shop, or the Arclight pedals, none of this is sponsored or paid. I'm just having fun trying to help you guys out and share what I've learned over the years. And I welcome you to share any tips or advice you have in the comments below. The goal is just to help people have fun and be safe so you can keep riding, you can enjoy this year round. So I love you guys, ride safe, and we'll see you next time. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and consider sharing it with a friend. And check out my website, ElectricBikeReview.com. There's an awesome category and filter tool set that will help you navigate thousands of electric bikes to find the right one for your lifestyle and budget. You can post comments, connect in the forums, and discover local shops so you can go in for a test ride and get your bike set up just the way you want it. I've been running EBR since 2012, providing the best data and limiting the ads. Have fun out there, ride safe, and we'll see you next time.